What is up, potato chips? Today we take a look back upon yesteryear. A time filled with whimsy and mystery. A time which, if you lived through the early 2000s like me, you remember quite fondly. And if not, well, buckle in, it's time to receive some culture. Today we are looking back to when the Spiderwick Chronicles ruled the world. But first, don't forget to drop a like and hit that subscribe button to stay updated for more videos like this one in the future. In 2003, writer and illustrator duo Tony DiTerlizzi, I probably botched that last name a bit, and Holly Black released one of the most imaginative concepts in modern written history, the Spiderwick Chronicles, a series of books about three siblings who inherit their said-to-be crazy aunt's dilapidated old house that has strangeness and wonder lurking about every corner. The siblings, twin brothers Jared and Simon Grace, along with their older sister Mallory Grace, are a bit shell-shocked to be living in such an environment. Everything is crackled, dusty, or just plain odd. Some of the pictures in these books are like the stuff of nightmares. Mysterious sounds, collections, and hidden areas litter the place, including an old trunk that houses the infamous Spiderwick Field Guide, a magical book that unleashes knowledge to an unseen world upon its opening. This wild world was inhabited by creatures you could never even imagine until these books had been released. And what made this so great was the balance they provided between fiction and fictional within this concept. You see, this world was said to always be happening around you, just invisible to the untrained eye. To see these mysterious beings for what they were, one would need either the sight or a special looking glass called the Seeing Stone. And that as a concept is more than enough to get your imagination flowing. You are now questioning every leaf being carried by the breeze, every splash in a pond, even the birds. The first story comprised of 5 different books: The Field Guide, The Seeing Stone, and Lucinda's Secret, which were all released in 2003, followed by the concluding 2 chapters, The Ironwood Tree and The Wrath of Mulgarath in 2004. Now these books were insane. They had trolls hiding in the woods holding kids for ransom. They had kids being put under sleeping curses. They had goblins which had teeth made of jagged glass, and these goblins would try anything within their power to make a child bleed. They had shape-shifting monsters, time-traveling sprites who were quite cunning and set in their ways of the weird. If you made an error, that was on you, and they did not care. The final book has this epic quest taking place upon a massive castle made of old trash where they all must fight against an ogre king to survive and to earn back their freedom, as well as to save the world. It's intense stuff, especially when it's all propelled by your imagination as a child or a teenager, but it still sticks with you even as an adult. These books were great as much as they were unhinged. By the end of this series, each sibling has at least had to kill at least one living creature. You know, typical kid stuff, which reminds me just how watered down media aimed towards children is nowadays. In the years between these books and the spin-off series, a few guides were released. Books dedicated to naming and describing each of the wild creatures that inhabited the world of Spiderwick. Even a book solely about the way to care for and feed sprites. This really helped with the immersion of this series. In 2007, Tony and Holly were back on their game and released the first installment of Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles, a new trilogy of books taking place after the events of the first 5. Here we are in a new state, which creates a vastly new setting, and we have a slew of new characters. This time we swap out Jared, Simon, and Mallory for Nick Vargas, his brother Jules, and their new stepsister Lori. Now Nick and Lori are pretty close in age, but vastly different in personality. Lori believes in the fantastical and is obsessed with fairies. Meanwhile, her new stepbrother is always shutting her down, being mean, and just trying to get her off his case. Well, Nick eventually finds a 4-leaf clover, which in this extension of the lore gives the carrier the sight to see the hidden world around them. This prompts him to slowly believe in what he had previously thought were just his sister's delusions. This trilogy goes for a bit of a wild ride. It's quicker, yes, but also more high stakes. As their story progresses, Nick, Lori, and Jules all grow closer, although their parents' relationship does become a bit strained. The characters encounter an aging giant hunter as it's revealed giants migrate or come out of hibernation every so often in the Florida area, and this time it is quite bad. They are leaving sinkholes everywhere, causing destruction all throughout their path. The new crew eventually does cross paths with the Grace siblings, as they require them for backup thanks to hearing rumblings about their expertise. The way they find the Grace siblings is actually quite trippy and fourth wall. The new kids head to a Spiderwick book signing because apparently the books are canon in universe. There they meet a fictionalized version of Tony and Holly, the real-world author and illustrator, but it turns out in their world the books are fictionalized a bit, but also kind of have this mysterious air about them. And the Gray siblings happen to be on tour alongside the writers. It's just sort of like help. Well, Jared and Simon at least, while Mallory is off somewhere for fencing, I believe. Turns out actually that their last name isn't even Grace. They had Tony and Holly change it for anonymity purposes. Yeah, so it all gets a bit trippy there for a second, but it is said that their stories and experiences are all still mostly real though, at least from what I remember from back when I read them, but it has been a bit. Now that the two factions have teamed up, they eventually take care of the Nixie they found in book 1 of this spin-off series, along with reuniting her with her sisters, who she had been separated from, and was quite determined to get back to. And this was a huge feat because Nixies are rather untrusting. Turns out in the finale book, The Worm King, that the giants, they aren't even the main threat. They had actually been an aid in the fight, and they had been taking down pieces of the true threat. In the sinkholes, there were tiny worm-like creatures, which are revealed to be baby dragons or pieces of hydras. In a final showdown within the Mega Hydra's lair, they see it wipe out tons of giants as easy as killing a fly with a fly swatter. Eventually, the King Hydra, which is a collection of these baby dragons, gets dismantled and eaten by the giants, thanks to some help from Nick stepping up. The story then ends with the Vargas family living happily ever after, while Jared and Simon head off to meet their father. Yeah, the guy who didn't want the time of day with them in the previous 5 books. I guess they sort of retconned that in these ones with all of the meta stuff they pull. Now that final book released in September of 2009, so let's run it back about a year to February of 2008, when Nickelodeon Pictures' film adaptation was fresh to theaters. The buzz of the franchise was at its all-time height here. They had a full-blown interactive website, which was really everything you could have asked for back then. It was quite immersive. This was also back when you were sure to get a video game adaptation of whatever big film was out at the time, like Shrek 2, G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra, Spider-Man 3, you name it. So of course there was a Spiderwick Chronicles film adaptation video game, one that was available for the Wii, the PS2, and Nintendo DS. Back when video game companies covered all of their bases. The Wii and PS2 games were quite similar in gameplay, albeit incorporating the system's core functionality, whereas the DS version was so different, as was typically the case back then for the less expansive hardware. Instead of a 3D immersive retelling of the film, it was a 2D turn-based RPG type game, definitely a time capsule and quite similar to the Percy Jackson DS game, one that was a huge disappointment to me back in the day. You know, when I expected a full 3D retelling of the film, but I digress. The film was actually so big that at the time they had a partnership with McDonald's, you know, back when they made real toys, and the commercials helped to perpetuate that magical and mystical vibe that the books and film promised. The advertising tagline was actually, "Their world is closer than you think." The toys provided were some of the various creatures and sprites, all accompanied with its very own Seeing Stone. Now I remember seeing the Happy Meal boxes, but I don't believe I ever got my hands on any of the toys themselves, save for maybe finding a lone goblin once that had been lost somewhere in like the mall, but my mother wouldn't let me keep it. I do remember the commercials and specialized Happy Meal boxes quite vividly though. I even remember when the film was released, they reissued a movie-accurate version of the field guide, and my cousin and I would take turns reading it together and just letting our imaginations run wild. The movie itself was a moderate success, but went triple platinum in my house, and back then I had no idea that Jared and Simon were played by the same exact kid. I just assumed it was a Zack and Cody type situation, so finding that out as an adult was a trip. When the film was released, suddenly even the mundane had become enticing. What are your guys' thoughts on the Spiderwick film and the Spiderwick Chronicles franchise as a whole? Have you watched it? Have you read the books? Have you ever even heard of it before this video? Make sure to let me know your thoughts and takes in the comments below as I look forward to reading them. If you enjoyed this video, again, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button as it really does help out the channel. And as always, thank you very much for watching ciNATEmatic.